I would like to start with a controversial topic, which might not be so controversial anymore. But what do you think? Is sustainability just another buzzword which is very overused in the fashion industry today? What's your opinion?
I agree with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So sustainability is an awful word, is overused. We should talk about. I mean, I always say that we should talk about responsibility rather
Mm-hmm.
than sustainability. Having said this, I think it is a marketing tool. It became a marketing tool lately. So every brand is sustainable. Everybody has something which is sustainable, and it's not true. And the other thing which I find it quite weird is that as long as the offer, which means the brands keep on talking about sustainability, I'm not quite sure the demand, which is the consumer, are really interested into this sort of issue. So I always made this example really near the store. It opened up some times ago. I wouldn't recall. I think a couple of years ago. It was November, and the Shein shop opened, and it was raining and it was windy, and people were queuing up to get into the store. And this is something you won't see for a sustainable brand. So there are some which are really, really into the hype, but I think it's still a controversial issue. So I'm not sure that I answered your question, but
It definitely does answer.
It answers that question. Hey guys, welcome back to the Reenari podcast where we spill the chai on craftsmanship, sustainability, and consciousness. I'm Suhani, your co host, joined by Anshika, and today is our first offline episode, so it's super exciting for us. We're here with Fabrizio, the founder
hello.
of Blue of a Kind, at the lovely store in Corso Como, and we're super excited. So grab your chai and let's get into it because this is going to be a long one. Fabrizio, how do you feel being here with us today?
I'm very happy.
And before we get into it, I want to ask you, did you like what did you study? Did you have a background in sustainability?
Of course not. I study economics
Okay.
and before that classical studies, so nothing really linked to sustainability. Sustainability is just something that came into my path as a sort of an incident. I would say it was something that I was actually working in fashion, and that was an incident in itself. And then working into fashion, it came out. Sustainability started to become something interesting, and for this reason, I started digging into it, and then decided to build what this store represents today.
That's lovely.
And another topic that I would really like to touch upon is this idea of made in Italy, which stands up about artisanal elegance, timeless craftsmanship. So, Blue of a Kind, it really stands for remade in Italy. But currently, we are living in a world of post fast fashion in 2025. So, what do you think? What does remade in Italy stand for you in this era?
It's a good question. Well, remade in Italy actually plays with words. Play with words. So the idea of made in Italy was is actually something that still carries some sort of vibe or some sort of preciousness into this word. At the same time, the idea of working with remade in Italy to us combines two elements, which are the remade elements. So the idea that we want to say that actually all that you find in here is actually remade, and at the same time that is still made in Italy, just because it is actually. So we have this we happen to be in Italy, we happen to be Italian, so we thought that this could be still something that could be leveraged to another level. I do not think that made in Italy should still keep all this hype, because I think that uh, I think it really depends on how things are made. Even because you and I know that made in Italy means nothing when it comes to sweatshop that we do have in Prato, for example, where like the Chinese people work very long shift for something that is technically made in Italy, but it's not. It doesn't really. It actually voids the word of made in Italy, which, as you were quite rightly say, recalls an idea of craftsmanship or timeless production, and this is not what actually these things are about. So I think we are at a turning point of a number of things, and this is one of those.
No, like I think you made a great point there because I think a lot of brands also use that branding where it's like it's technically kind of made here, but it's just like they market it around that. So
Yes,
I think it's just like become a bit of a tag at this
yes.
point. And I think, if I'm not wrong, when you started in 2018, I don't think sustainability was such a big thing at the time. I think it's like post COVID that every brand's like, okay, we need to be sustainable. We need to, do something in this space. So, what made you sort of make that leap into this space and the whole remade aspect also of it?
Well, I agree well, sustainability has always been there. So the idea to try and not be a burden for the environment has always been something there. It wasn't as big as a hot topic as it is today, and and it definitely became something very hot after
Yeah.
COVID
Yeah,
19.
exactly.
And I think because for some weird reason, people started to think that actually all the thing, all the bet that we can make could actually turn back on us. So that I think was the the, the turning point. Um, Regarding the reason we decided to start a sustainable, responsible brand, because as I told you, I was working in fashion already, and there was something already in the air. So I think one of the things that we've been very good at doing is actually smelling the air, trying to feel what are these long waves that are coming, and this we thought could have been that thing. And so somehow it was going towards something that I think we all have inside of ours. So the idea to do something which is not against nature, not against the environment. So I think everybody wants to.
Yeah.
If you ask everybody, everybody will tell you that they are sustainable, that they care about the environment. Nobody would ever say I'm not interested in environment, right? So we decided to take this element, and I won't lie, I think that that was also an idea at the very beginning for us to, because we realized that this could have been a marketing tool. So the idea of to have a mission, to have a vision, to have something that you stand for could have given us a way to stand out of the crowd, which actually turned out to be true. And at the same time, the more you dig into this in the fashion world, the more you dig into ways to do something in a different way, the more you understand how important it is, and so the more you get involved into it, and the more it goes under your skin.
Could you, like, if you don't mind sharing a bit of your experience because you mentioned you worked in fashion, so
I was working
something
for,
from that
yeah, I
made you
was working for.
realize?
Well, I think we can so name the brand, which is Replay, is actually, I'm not sure whether it's fashion, it's denim still, so a multinational corporation, and so that is why I always say that I actually step laterally towards what I am right now. So I got to know that word, I like the word, and I thought that there could have been some improvement in the way things are done. So at the time, I mean, one of the elements that we may touch afterwards is that denim jeans in general use a lot of water. So the idea was, how can we minimize this? So that was already a task that was followed by Replay. At the same time, we wanted to take this thing at further levels, so to go really to shrink the usage of water.
That really, and I think this leads me to the next topic, where the first thing when I come to your website is I see a greener blue. So I feel the statement is very captivating, and it's a it's a nice play on words, crafting a greener blue. What does it mean for you?
What I think it means, well, what it means, I think it's pretty straightforward. So, no, thank you because, for the company, because my real background is actually communications, branding and stuff. So that is what really comes out easy for me. So playing with words and copywriting and stuff. So for that is also the name of the brand, which we may get to talk about. Blue of the Can is actually a play with word again, because it comes from kind of blue from Miles Davis, and then it's actually rephrasing actually reusing the same element to create the name of the brand. Going back to green and blue, I think it really means that, I mean, blue is actually the iconic color for denim, and green is what I would say the iconic color for what is actually sustainable. So the idea was to put these two things together. So it was a great way to go.
Yes, definitely. And I really want to know also the story behind the creation of the denim, of the brand, like the clothes, how you get all
Sorry,
these.
there is somebody coming in. Can we stop, or is it should be like a flow? You can cut it.
We can.
You can.
You were not supposed to. No, no, not cut. I just say that this is going to be cut because Benedetta. Hello, she's Benedetta. She is just.
Hi.
Bye, bye. Sorry.
Okay, perfect. So I would really like to touch upon the story of the creation of the products in the brand, the clothes. So how you get the fabrics, what processes you go through, and I think it would be really interesting to know that.
Okay, so it's all started like it's always been a learning curve. So we did it. Everything we've been doing so far has been new. So it's nothing there was not like a playbook on how to do this sort of thing. So we started our own. So the first thing that I think you guys may be interested in is that we went to what then became our business partner, which is are now friends, but they have they're manufacturers, and we asked them, we know that you do jeans. Can you also are you also able to destroy them? Are you also able to put them? And they looked at us like, what does this guy wants from us? And then they started thinking about this, and this has always been the process throughout our collaboration. They say, you know what? Yes, maybe we can do it. We can try. So this has been, in a nutshell, the entire process. When it comes to how we do things, we start like selecting denim, and this we usually do it. We take. I mean, there are two big collecting points of used material, second-hand material in at least the one that we know in Europe. One is in France, in Normandy, in the northern part of France, and the other one is in Prato, which is near in Tuscany. So basically, we go there, we select our own, what then becomes our raw material, even though these are not raw material, but it's actually a second-hand product. And from that thing, then we take this garment, we bring it to like a manufacturer, external manufacturer, which actually unstitch them completely. And then this becomes our raw material. And with this, then we try to understand what we can create with this element. And of course, it's like it's a very narrow path because when you start with a roll of fabric, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. But I'm not a big fan of like creativity in general. I don't really think it's the good way to go. Not for me at least. So the idea to start with something which already has limits, already has like elements you need to take into consideration. I thought for me it was very challenging and powerful to then create what you see around here. So we started from that, and again, without a playbook, we started doing things, and we kept on doing, and we learned by doing. So it's been, I would say, it's always been like blood and sweat. So it's been very also interesting process.
But I think that's interesting because you're saying you're not creative, but I think you are definitely creative because challenging yourself, but
It's a
not.
compliment.
Yeah, it's a compliment. Like, I'm saying you're definitely like creative because it's easy for anyone to create something from unlimited options, but it's obviously more challenging when your options are quite narrow, as you said.
Yeah, I would be completely frozen in front of an unlimited possibility, as opposed to when you have like few things that
Yeah.
you can actually take into consideration. I think that is the way that I mean, the death I feel more comfortable into.
Okay, on that note, we're going to start with a fun little segment. It's called Myth or Fact, Sustainability Editions. You can be as honest as you want. I'm going to
Which
ask
can
you.
be also be not honest.
Well, yeah,
Is
up
that
to
right?
you.
Is that
Up
right?
to you. No one's going to know.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you three statements, and you just say whether that's a myth or a fact. Gen Z values like more than labels.
Sorry.
Like Gen Z cares more about values over labels.
I think it's a fact to a certain extent. So this is a fact as long that it doesn't affect their wallet.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's still. This is actually true for everybody, but still,
Yeah.
we are all heroes
Yeah.
until you actually have to jump into the water to save somebody, and then you start to create like you actually start to segment who's a real hero, who's is not. So, but to this extent, I would say reality. If that was the play, myth or reality.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. greenwashing is the new marketing strategy.
Definitely.
I don't think we need any
No, I
explanation
think
on
we already
that
covered
one.
it in the process.
And fashion with values lasts longer than fashion with a logo.
Yes, I think it's true. Even though we also have like example that goes in the other direction, it's really a mix. It's really a mix. But I think that I think this is something we're gonna see in the next future. So I think all the brands have been following and chasing creative directors, and they have reworked the logos. All the creative directors are just changing and going from,
Exactly. Yeah.
and I think nobody is really caring about the past, the legacy of the brands. And I think when you must love the brand for something. So I'm not sure whether this is true, but it will definitely become more and more true in the future. So, for example, Patagonia has values and stands for something. They don't do advertising in traditional way, and their following is a real following. So they're really
Yeah.
into that, as opposed to other brands which I'm not sure about. For example, I can see like I was had this idea that for a certain amount of time, Burberry went from being like English-driven, genuine thing to something more streetwear. I thought they was losing. I mean, to my idea, they were losing their path, and I think that sort of thing can be very, very dangerous. So I think the brand should choose like a narrower follower or group of consumer. Even they're not just consumer; they're consumer and actually follower, rather than trying to talk to everybody. So you have to talk. You have to set your
Yeah.
tone of voice and decide who you want to talk with,
Yeah.
and then go for it.
I think they're changing up a lot in that space. I think, like you mentioned, that there are like a lot more brands, I'm sure, that are doing that. And could you like describe your ideal consumer, as you see it?
My ideal consumer, well, I think it's a consumer that actually understand what is behind our brand. So our brand doesn't care. You won't see anything with a big brand on it. So the idea is actually to be our idea of branding is having people that understand what is behind it, um, comply with it, think that this is actually valid for them, and then so they embrace the brand, they embrace what it represents. When you come here and you buy a single element, you buy into a story, you buy into a sort of elements of thoughts and beliefs and dreams in a way. But then what you actually bring home is just a single garment. So that single garment should represent for you everything else, and it's just for you. So it doesn't need to be. Doesn't need to be say, hey guys, I'm sustainable, guys, I'm vegan or whatever. You mean it for yourself.
That note, I wanted to ask you. I think it's such a community-driven brand too. I think like you've created a great community also around it, like the kind talks and stuff that you host. And even I feel like Rinaria whole idea with like starting it was to also create a community and just get like-minded people together. And so, how do you sort of incorporate the social responsibility aspect into it, or is that something that just flows with
What
it?
kind of actually were born because myself and my business partner wanted to actually do something that was actually somehow detached from a brand. So we wanted to bring people together and start talking about things without being like compromised by the idea of having to sell something. So this was actually the criticism that we were seeing. So why do you do this? Why do you do this kind of talks? What is the reason behind this? And the truth was that there was no reason behind it. It was just for the sake of having people around and talking of elements. So the idea of actually having this conversation around topics that were like sustainability or stuff like this came also with the in the attempt to try and things together. So we were still sitting here in the store, and so we wanted to have these two elements converging. But then we also took the liberty to talk about completely different subjects. For example, the difference, the distance, and the frustration between ambition and what you actually are able to do. So how did these two things are together? So you start with a dream, you start with a dream job, you end up with a very nice job, that actually has a customer, as a stakeholders that actually harass you and they ask you things that you don't want to do. So how does this come together? So this has nothing to do basically with the brand.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it does at the same time because you're never free to do stuff. So everybody say if you're your own boss, then you're free. You're never free. You always have to sell services or stuff. So you always, unless you're an artist, and even then, there is an issue that you may be pleasing somebody somehow. So I'm not sure whether I answered the
No, no,
question.
you
But
did. No, you perfectly answered
you
the
know this.
question. Yeah.
So towards the end, I would like to end on a statement that fashion has always been about the next new thing in design, but you stand for upcycling, for making the vintage pieces. So do you think we are really creating anything new in today's world, or is it just that we are evolving with what we already have and remaking things in a new way? What's your take on this?
Well, I think the previous thing is not anymore the next thing, but the previous thing for us. No, I don't think we're doing anything new. I mean, it's still. I mean, first of all, fashion has always been fiction in the past. Always. So the archives. You will always hear people and creative directors telling you about the archives. I went to archives. I fell in love with this and that. But it's still military. It's still army. It's still working stuff. It's always been like this. So it's still like something that it's a recurring process, right? So and then there are two, I would say at least two paths in fashion. First one, it's like the catwalks fashion, so things that are really somehow unwearable.
Yeah.
Forgive me for being so. And then there are us, the people, normal people. So you're wearing jeans and a shirt or a top, so you're not really wearing like a post-war stuff. We're still, so I think we're not inventing anything. It's just things that adapt. So there's actually two ways. In a way, fashion needs you to be willing to buy something different because otherwise there will be no reason for even for us for being in the business. And at the same time, people want to change. So, but it's still somehow the same thing. You find sometimes new things that are made. For example, yesterday there was a very interesting guy, a very creative guy from Nigeria that came into the store and showed me what he does. And his name is I like to mention is Hugo, but I don't remember the surname. And his idea thought they were really creative and different, at least in this side of the world. So we wanted to actually mix the two things together. So the traditional wedding dresses that they create for his country to bring them here. Otherwise, if you look around, it's still straight skateboards, stuff like that, which have been around for at least 50 years from the 70s. So is this something new? And I guess the answer is no.
No, that completely makes sense. So, Fabrizio, that this talk was really insightful, and I hope for our audience too. It has opened up another world of sustainability and conscious culture, new ways of thinking. So, guys, that was a wrap on another episode of Renari where we talk about conscious culture and sustainability. And I think now it's time for really the time for our
It's time
afternoon
for
tea.
afternoon.
So we'll sign off and see you
See you in the next
next
episode.
episode.
Bye bye.
Bye.